Yep. So July, in July, that was heat of the summer. We came out and said, hey guys, listen, there's around a 34-month spell from when interest rates start to turn. So from the first uptick in interest rates following a new interest rate cycle, you have about 34 months before you start to get your first recessionary twinges on average. And it was quite tightly bunched, the grouping. And well done to Simon Black, who's done quite a bit on the research around that. Definitely worth keeping half an eye on his work. Anyway, I went out in July. This was posted in July, and I said this October Q4 to 18, a little whiff of the reset napalm will be in the air. And it seems like the IMF wants to make me an honest man. I've tweeted out a variety of different articles on the IMF and them coming out and saying this, that, and the other. It seems like they've suddenly woken up. I actually did a Reset Sniper clip saying they seek to establish alibi, you know, as in we told you so. We said it, we warned it, therefore we are innocent actors in this. We are the Cassandras of the world. You know, we keep trying to help you guys from hurting yourself and you don't listen to us. And now you see we've gone and done it and it happened and, you know, we're innocent bystanders in all of this. You've got to remember that the International Monetary Fund, the United Nations, all funded by Rockefeller money. And while they've made some cranky calls, most of which have been exceedingly bullish on the recovery. In other words, they've been trying to reheat the rebound from '09 following the Great Recession. It was a depression. Sorry, folks. Sorry to tell you that. It'll probably only be fully acknowledged in the passage of time when you contemplate how much QE, fake money that has been pumped in and that your buying power of your money is probably halved during that period. But all those points aside, they did all they could to be a cheerleader for the rebound. In other words, they were hopelessly inaccurate, the IMF, always over forecasting the recovery. And in a bid to say, you know, to lead the cheerleaders for getting the green shoots popping out of the ground. Only problem is they'd scorched the earth so goddamn badly, there was very little seed left to come bouncing back. Anyway, as this has moved on, that's most of the inaccuracy has been hopeless over optimism. Now that we have a white conservative male president that is supposedly a Republican, and by the way, I don't really have a dog in this politics fight, Democrats. It's a puppet show to get you engaged. Presidents are selected, not elected, and the sooner you realize that, the better. But they like the idea of crushing conservative low government types and fixing on the communism, socialism, UBI type people, which is more typically Democrats in the US. So my suspicion is the reset was always going to happen on a Trump card, possibly I thought on his second term, deep in his second term. But I do think we get a little wobble here. I'm not calling this as this is it. This is the great reset. It could be. We don't know for sure. But for now, it's a stock market sell-off. It's people waking up and realizing, hey, that debt's suddenly getting more expensive. You're seeing the euro that's standing at quite a high level, but the interest rate differential in what you'd get paid in interest on dollars versus euros now widened quite extensively. There's some real structural frictions building up here, and the market's having a bit of a wobble, and everyone's saying, oh, well, the guy's going to start a trade war and all of this stuff. Well, you can't de-globalize and put that genie back in the can. I can't think, not without major ructions. Anyway, this is all what's going happening, and the notion of that aggregate period to when you start to feel the pain of an interest rate cycle. Initially, people actually often respond quite favorably because it's not significant enough to hurt, and it looks like solid economics are in play. But with our level of debts, we've had many guys come out and say, this is a multi-generational turn in the bond markets. Let me tell you, there is no possible way we get back to the Volcker level of interest rates, a la the 80s when gold pumped. And on that point, by the way, gold has got a little bit warmer. Why? Because people there's too much debt around. That's why we could never get to that level of interest rates. In other words, the payments, interest payments, just at what used to be deemed normal balance between stimulation and containing inflation rates of interest, which span somewhere between the 4 and 6.5%, often in the fives, just couldn't be applied again because our interest rate bill is just too big at that level of percentage. So the whole notion that we can ever get this hand out of that cookie jar holding that amount of sweeties on the way back up is not going to happen. The assets overvaluation with the free, cheap money and the equity markets that have been bought on debt, where everyone has been actually retiring equity for loaned money because it's cheaper to pay such ridiculously low interest rates than to pay dividends and actually have owners, which you have to answer to, is a cycle that doesn't end well. We will have to go through a major financial reset. There is no normal interest rates again because of how we fattened up on the way down. It's too much ballast. We've gained too much weight. There's no coming back out through that hole. We're just too fat now and too toxic. Anyway, we will have a ruction, I believe, for this October, and you've seen it taking place. That's already essentially, in essence, come true. But I don't assess that this is the big one. That said, it could get bumpy for the remainder of October, given what you've seen, and it could roll in. I will revisit if it takes a new nasty turn with either the trade war or whatever the narrative will be. But the interesting thing is this independent article that is talking about it. Bless Hamish McRae. I wonder what country he comes from. Oh, lovely. A man of the Northern Isles of Britain, which are involved in Brexit. And it's interesting how this particular article refers to Trump and actually refers to Brexit. And these things are described as populist. You know, it's just that the government system has taken their eyes off the ball and they've upset the people. So there's some populist notions. It's like being a libertarian. It just is something you do because you're pissed off and you want to show that you're rebelling. It's like a teenager getting a bad haircut. It's populist, he describes, saying how the UK in the aftermath of the Great Recession, which turned out into the Brexit, was wrongly called, by the way, as they're going to struggle, is actually the second fastest. Britain has been the second fastest recovery after the US of any of the G7 nations. So much for the notion of Brexit and market flexibility. Europe is still the most sclerotic of all the overall, the EU specifically, and its legal constraints and structure over that market is still very, very bad. But the thing that's interesting is tying the populism. In other words, Trump is just an effect of populism and Brexit is an effect as populism. Like I say, I'm not a fan of Trump. I believe he's backed by Rockefeller, that you're just talking to two different tentacles of the same octopus. But the notion of it is the value, the way it's construed in newspapers, that pursuing liberty and pushback, people that are feigning and pretending to represent pushback against big government and dark state when they probably control, get support. That pushback towards the EU and the ever largest of the laws that get issued and all of that. Well, apart from the IMF being particularly bad predictors and being over-optimistic to be cheerleaders to warm us all up, and it's all going to get better and green shoots, and now trying to do the calming it back down and highlighting it all as, well, it's these populist responses. It is not Trump and it is not Brexit that will cause the reset. This is how they sew in a narrative that causes great disruption. It's not going to be trade wars that causes the reset. It's a simple thing. The banking cartel with their hypothecation model, their tertiary extracting model, and their rental extracting and tax extracting, super state creating, and oligarchy of corporatocracy that have special rules and tax to the detriment of small and medium-sized business, and the ever expansion of liquidity in the form of debt. This is the reason why you will be reset, not populism or people that vote against the system. In fact, voting pro the system would just accelerate this debt-based feast that only ends in one of the worst and most toxic meltdowns. So I'm not sure that this is going to actually be the event. He tries to talk about both the Federal Reserve and the Bank of England don't want to be caught unprepared again. Let me just say one thing to you. They often talk about the central bankers and their toolkit as if it's like, you know, the surgeon, and you just unroll this kit and there's all these various scalpels and hammers and devices and all of these things, multiple toolkits. There is no toolkit. There is one tool, and it is currency destruction, aka it can come in many forms: quantitative easing, reducing the reserves a bank has to hold, in other words, encouraging it to lend more, which is once again pumping more liquidity, creating, sloshing the countries with more money. So I will say to you here that if we do go into any form of recessional behavior, they are going to come rushing out. The central bankers are going to come rushing out, including the Fed, and they will cut rates even faster than they've raised them, and they will start printing again. And that's their sole tool. And when everything you see is a nut, all you do is swing the hammer. And these guys only have a hammer, so everything has to be a nut. And rather than face up to the pain and the toxicity of the system and allow a full reset to run through, let the fire burn through all the brushwood, let the green shoots eventually come once we've cleared out all the crap. They will continue with a no pain philosophy and attempt to bail out the bankers. No, not you. They're not trying to work for you. They don't work for you. They work for the people who gave them power. They will try keep the banks afloat by keeping the assets pumped up. So that is why they will QE. That is why they will lower rates. And that is why they might do tweaking on reserve needed to be held by banks to flood liquidity and to destroy currency further again. The question is, what extent will crypto play? At the moment, we're seeing the market sell off. And unfortunately for crypto, at the global level, when humans feel fear, they sell. They sell everything and they get tight with cash. When they're losing money in the stock market, many of those are still players in the crypto realm. The IMF has, however, tied the reset with crypto in some of its other articles. So I'll post this article. You can read it in more detail about the Bretton Woods institution that was founded post the Second World War, a banker-funded war on both sides, and the solution that was put forward, that was ready to go as soon as the war was over. And here was this IMF and all of these Rockefeller funded foundations. Think now, what is their great solution that they will be rolling out come any other future conflict and financial reset? And with the IMF already fingering crypto, do you really think the control structure has not got into crypto in some way? That doesn't mean you shouldn't be in it, but forget your notions of complete privacy. Forget your notions that there won't be hypothecation. And to all those people on crypto that say, oh, it will be so great when the institutions come in. The institutions come in once the control is ascertained. And the hypothecation will come in when they come with their custodial solutions. Custodial solutions, people can pledge 100, 1,000 Bitcoin in there, and then they can trade and they will hold it for you. It's the same as the gold vaults. They will issue many pieces of paper for the same deposit with them. They will hypothecate, and that's how they will proliferate Bitcoin and turn it eventually into a currency that gets highly proliferated. So how much appreciation we can get before they get into full swing with the hijack of what could be the currency for the new era, and they start hypothecating. Remember also multiple technical forks, technological, I mean, not as in technical analysis charting, tech-based forking is also quantitative easing as well by virtue of another name, because you have a Bitcoin that's limited 21, then you have a Bitcoin Gold, a Bitcoin Diamond, a Bitcoin Cash, a Bitcoin everything. All of these create a proliferation in the asset category, and they're going to need plenty more, because they've got trillions of dollars that have to run somewhere, and there's not enough crypto around. But they're working on it, and their custodial solutions will be the beginning of the game, where they will hold your coins and say it's safe here and you're compliant to all your tax and usury extracting rules, good boy, and they will print many pieces of paper with rights to that. So they will always seek to control your money. The control structure will never give up control over anything accepted as money. And if they can't control it, they will kill it. I have a very bad outlook and feeling for the likes of the real true security coins. These will be the ones that will come under real pressure. Monero, for example, it will face many attacks from dark state hackers, but it will probably be state driven. Most hack attacks are driven by dark state operatives, and you can expect exactly that. You might wonder, and I'm not coming out in favor of Bitfinex, but all the tether arguments and Bitfinex, there might be real corruption behind that. I don't really know. But any exchange, and we've seen I think it's Shapeshift Exchange and also Bitfinex at the back of like bad attacking PR because they are not so compliant like the likes of Coinbase and all the others that roll over and agree to be 100% compliant and commit all their clients' details to the government of the day for inquiry and capture for tax extraction and all other government ruses whereby they keep you in perpetual slavedom. So watch out for those. All those that are being fingered with rumor may be fingered for rumor by the same media that doesn't like them for reasons that they are actually not complying with you. That is not me saying Tether's cool and everything's hunky with Tether. It's not saying Bitfinex Exchange is cool and everything's hunky with Bitfinex. I'm not detailed in the study on all of that. I've read many articles. I don't know what's true there any more than anywhere else. But beware how they might try terrorize you out and damn a business by coverage to keep you out of the safest options and herd you into the agreed Trojan roll over, sell you out type structures that they already control. Okay, that's my rant. That is a little bit on crypto. That's a little bit on Brexit. It's a little bit on the foundation of the IMF, on your Bretton Woods agreement at the end of the last major war, why big resets often accompany a little bit of population control of the masses and the sheeple. So we've got to be on our toes. We've got to be alert. There's plans afoot. Believe you me, they already have their plans. And the central bankers do not have tools other than destroying your fiat currency, which might be the final point that they get a bit of heat back into the precious metals market, with the likelihood of them once again reaching for lower interest rates again, possibly negative in Europe if it gets really out of control, back down, winding back the rate rises in the US and pumping QE again if it gets out of control. Those are the warnings I want to give you. I am not saying this is reset October. It's a wobble. We'll see if it turns into anything nastier. But I do have an express feeling and a general opinion that it will happen on Trump's presidency, and we are there now. I still think a second term, they'll try eke out a few more years. They want to own crypto by the jugular. They want to have every little lever on it and all of the little reporting channels nice and slick so that they own you and your coins. Okay, that's the IMF tying crypto in. That's my whole story to you. And as warned, we are now in that 34-month typical average cycle from the commencement of an interest rate cycle here now in October. So the flag could go up. And let's be clear, it wouldn't be an ordinary recession because we are not in ordinary times and we do not have ordinary debt levels. And you didn't have an ordinary recession last time and you never cleaned up the crap from that. You painted over those cracks. Okay, I'm the Reset Sniper. You can follow me here on this YouTube channel, on the Twitter feed at the Reset Sniper. I'm going to be at the Dollar Vigilante in Mexico. You're welcome to come and down. I'll be speaking from the stage there. I also have a free webinar series for those of you that want to invest / trade your way through this. You can check out the link, go pre-register for a free trade minimum mastery program course that I am doing for you. I'm doing it right now and recording the content for that. It'll go out at the end of November, beginning December. You can pre-reg for that. We have limited seats for that one, and we will be doing a webinar on it's not what you make, it's what you keep and the 7 key mistakes, the 3 great benefits, the 5 M's of trading success. That webinar is coming up. You go to themarketsniper.com, hit get started and register there. I'm Francis. Thanks for watching. Enjoy, share, and like. Speak to you later.